Welcome to the Menopause Coach Podcast. Today's episode is one that I almost didn't record. When I first got introduced to Heather Jackson, the co-founder of Gen M, I had some reservations about Gen M, and I explained this to her. Like many women in the menopause space, I had questions. I had questions about the growing number of menopause products entering the market, whether they were genuinely supporting us as women or whether they were just simply capitalizing in on the word menopause. So instead of making any assumptions, I invited Heather for a chat. And what I discovered was an incredible woman whose own menopause experience exposed a huge gap in her own support. And she massively took action. She decided to do something about it, like we all do if we're faced with something that doesn't feel right. And really from a simple idea that you're going to hear about inside this, Heather then co-founded what is now known as Gen M, which is awesome, with the MTick. So I want to explain a little bit more as we go through this episode today, because I think that this is going to be a real good listen for you. In this episode, we explore the story behind Gen M, the thinking behind the MTick accreditation, and we look a little bit at why this matters. I ask Heather some deep questions around why, like why this? Why do we need to have this? And how we can be informed as women. So I hope you really enjoy this episode as we talk together, Heather and I. As always, my aim with any guest I have on the podcast is to make sure that we are bringing you some really solid, evidence-backed and based information. I want to bring you this information so that you feel supported and safe in the conversations that you get to have and the decisions you get to make. So I hope you enjoy this one. Let's dive in together. Heather, it is an absolute pleasure to have this conversation. When you and I first met and we had a chat initially by email, I was a little bit hesitant, and I know I shared this with you because I was like, I don't know how I feel about this one. So we met for a coffee chat virtually, which I love doing these things. And when you and I started to chat, one thing that came to light really, really quickly was how very similar our stories are for how we've ended up where we are now, even in this conversation today. So I would love to bring your story into this because I think it's a really, really powerful start from a woman who is so determined and driven, not as a doctor, not within the medical space, but someone who has seen that there is more that needs to happen. And you did not, like many of us out there, just sit back and look at other people to be like, well, will you fix this? So I would love to invite you to come just chat a bit about this with me now and tell the listener a little bit about you and how you came to be the co-founder of Gen M and MTick.
That's not a problem at all. And it's great to be on here, Adele. It really is, because the more we talk about menopause, the more they open up the conversation, and the more that it helps change society's thinking about it, the more opportunity women can have to actually have the opportunity to live a better menopause and thrive. Because I am really gutted by the research that comes in from Gen M that actually more women are fearful of menopause now in 2026 than they were in 2020. Because the rhetoric's been so negative and there's no so what, and it's very confusing atmosphere and landscape out there. So it is really great to be on this podcast. But going straight back to your question, I set up Gen M purely because I was a frustrated menopausal woman who couldn't find what she was looking for to help me have a better lived experience of menopause. As many women now know, I mean, I entered menopause 7 years ago, or perimenopause, and I was woefully unprepared for it. The word perimenopause hadn't even hit my vocabulary, never mind my knowledge base. And it was my friend at the time, Sam Simister, who became a co-founder, who actually said, Heather, you keep going to the doctors with, fatigue, thyroid problems, aching joints. She said, I actually don't think, I think you're perimenopausal. The doctor described me as depressed, and actually I just cashed in on a business. I'd got my kids all left home for all the right reasons, and I was ready to do my bucket list. I was having a Thelma and Louise life. So how could I be depressed? Anyway, she said I was perimenopausal, And actually, I looked it up what the word was and everything else, saw that there was many symptoms out there and signs, of which I got the majority of them. And it was like, oh my God, I'm not dying, I'm perimenopausal. This is great. I can now find what I need to actually help me live a better menopause, because I was a big marathon runner at the time, and I would never run a marathon in a pair of slippers with no experience and straight off my settee. And actually, I was almost angry with myself that I'd entered perimenopause, woefully unprepared, emotionally and physically. So I said to Sam, look, I'm going to find some solutions to help me to live my better menopause, from kit to just that whole holistic package. I wanted to ensure that I had a better lived experience. And she said, well, good luck there. And I ended up said, look, tell me your signs and symptoms. And by the time you come back from your meeting, I'll have found us every product out there that can help us live a better menopause. And she said, good luck with it. So anyway, I came back and I said, oh my God, I've been on the deep dark web looking for foundation that won't run down my face, or climate control bedding to help me with my night sweats, or, which supplements should I take? Actually, it was just an avenue of it was just download of lots of things and so much overwhelm. But yet I really had to struggle. And it was like, well, one, we've got a problem, Sam, when she came back. And two, I said, I've got a solution for it. And she goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, we're going to create the one-stop store for menopause for women like ourselves to search, source and shop with products that can help us. And she went, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, we're going to build the site. We're going to call it Moogle. We're going to be the Google of the menopause. I'm going to go out to every retailer out there and ask them to put their menopause-friendly products on it, from foundations to nutrients to supplements to hair care and shampoo and everything else. And she said, oh, I'm in on that. I'll go in with you on that. And she said, but first we need to do some credible research. So we paid an agency to do some real great research, and they showed us that 89% of women felt like Sam and I, overlooked, invisible, underserved, and actually they wanted better. 94% wanted to shop something that they could actually have trust in, and it was quite clear that 94% as well, it was a great figure, 94% wanted a one-stop shop. So I, in the beginning of lockdown, created an incredible one-stop shop called Moogle and went out to all the retailers.
So you actually created
it.
Moogle.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Built it and everything else. And we went out to 8 of the biggest retailers, and all of them after our meetings went, what's menopause and what's it got to do with us? Because 7 years ago, it was still very much, doctors and medication and very medical. Menopause felt medical rather than life transition. And as you and I both know, it's a life transition. Anyway, after the 8th rejection, it was more I wasn't angry. I was frustrated because I knew that they'd got products and I knew that they got solutions, but because they didn't know what menopause was and that it was a part of possibly a new category for menopause, they didn't know where to start on it, so we're just rejecting it. And so I turned around and said to Sam, I'm not giving up on this, because she was ready just to give up the website and everything and go, look, we've given it a go, let's leave it at that. Timing's not there. And I said, no, I've just Googled how many vegans are in the UK and it's 3%. And I've just Googled again menopause and it's 20%. If you look at the life, that what's happened to vegans over the last 40 years, it's become from a taboo and a very niche and very animal rights and punk rock sort of culture. When, if you ever remembered it, you're too young, Adele, but when it first came out, that's how it felt. And it was very taboo. It's now vibrant, inclusive, and, for everyone. And it's got great signposting, understanding and everything else. And, the market has built this percentage up to 3%. And given it a marketplace and given it credibility and trust. I said, and yet over here we've got 20% market share of women. Every woman will enter menopause. We have no choice. Unlike vegan, you can choose to be a vegan or not to be a vegan. We have no life choice. Every woman will enter it. And where's our signposting? Where's our customer awareness? Where's our product development and everything else? So I said, right. And I scribbled it down. I said, here's the answer. And I drew out an M-tick. It was a scratch on a piece of paper. And I went, this is the future of menopause. We're going to go back to those retailers and say, wow, we've got this symbol and we need you to understand it better. And we need you to give designated menopause-friendly space, and we'll build up a criteria. And actually at that point, it seemed a great idea. Let's make menopause the new vegan. And it was like the obvious thing to do. Anyway, luckily for me, I'd built good connections at Boots through my earlier conversation. So I phoned them up and I said, I've got an answer that I need to come in and talk to you about menopause. And so I drew the MTIC on an A4 piece of paper in with them. And I said, look, we want to build this symbol. This is the future of menopause retail that will give trust, credibility, visibility, and choice to women to shop menopause friendly. And at the same time, it needs that criteria to build it good, and we need a brand that we can really trust. Well, Boots is one of the top 10 brands in the world that you can trust, you know, when it comes to your WPPs and everything else. So I said, this is the MTIP, but I need you to build a criteria on it. And they, after 6 minutes of the push of the pitch, we went, we get this, we think it's right, and we're in, and we'll help you. So that was 4 years ago. And with a year of development with the criteria, then we tested it in 1,500 stores and 150 products. We were then ready to bring it to the world. And in 3 years, we've got 12 of the biggest retailers committed to giving designated menopause-friendly space in-store and online. And we've got 160 of the biggest brands, from Unilever to Procter & Gamble to some of the most fabulous challenger brands as well, working with us on their products to get MTIC accredited through our top compliance team to ensure that their products are fit for purpose. Now, menopause friendly isn't menopause specific. Doesn't have to be a menopause specific product that can get a menopause friendly symbol, a shopping symbol and a certification. It's products that pass our strict criteria to ensure that they can say that they can support, ease or relieve any one of the 48 signs of menopause. Now, that's a big difference, because it encouraged then retail brands to look at products that they know are great, but they haven't yet properly marketed well to a menopausal woman. So, you know, it's about the ingredients in it. Has it got the right ingredients? Has it got the right ingredients to do that? Has it got the right amount of it? Because many products, and especially supplements, will say they've got a product in for sleep, and woman knows magnesium can help sleep, but it hasn't got the right amount of it in. So yes, it's got it in, but no, it hasn't got the right amount. So we really wanted to build a criteria that really blew up and really was a symbol of symbols to tighten up the categories of shopping symbols and certifications. And since that 3 years that Boots built accreditation with us, we've built it out several times. So it really is one of the strongest certifications in the world at the moment. Goes right across categories.
It's quite a trailblazer, I suppose, when you look at how your story of your own journey into you and Sam having this conversation, and Sam being like, well, good luck, like, you're not going to find what you're looking for. And you're like, yes, I will. It's that determination around, you know, I will find it. And if I don't find it, I will make it, which is really admirable and very entrepreneurial as well.
Well, it is. But at the time, you know, I've lived a life of I've got a poster on the wall that my original mentor gave me, and she then became my sponsor, and then over time she became the chairman of my previous company, which was all about getting empowerment for women in the workplace. I built a big organisation that encouraged more women from middle management to take their careers to the top. So I've always been about choice and opportunity and actually righting wrongs. And she gave me a post that said, some people want things to happen, others wish they'd happen, and others make them happen. And actually, I can't cope with the problem. I have to find a solution. And so by igniting the biggest brands in the world to actually come on board, this wasn't giving them a problem like, oi, mates, you're not serving me well and I'm demanding better. We were going, look, you've got a problem. There's 15.5 million women in the UK. We can prove are underserved, overlooked and feel let down by brands like yourself. But I've not come here to be bitter with you. I've come here to be better. And actually, let's find a way of getting you to commit, to understand menopause better, look to actually understand it and serve it better for your consumer and your colleague. And that way then together we can actually make a problem simple. And the problem's going to be answered with this MTIC. The MTIC that will reunite retailers with brands with the consumer, and the whole world around it will be the word trust. And actually, if we could get the consumer to be able to search, source and shop with confidence, great. And actually, she could then know that whatever she was buying out of all this overwhelm that you might be getting, then she's got a great start to making her day better than yesterday. Now, yes, I was entrepreneurial, but we never set out to actually say that we were going to cure menopause. This is all about supporting women live a better lived experience.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not about HRT or not to HRT. It's about finding the products that work for you to make your day better today than yesterday. Like if you get climate controlled bedding and it's got the right technology in, because there's many bedding that will say it can actually wick a sweats, but it hasn't got the technology in properly to do it. It can breathe, but it won't dry you off. So if you can have the right technology and you're having a hot sweat, you can actually go straight back to sleep rather than getting up in the middle of the night, changing the bed, waking the household up plus the dog, then going on Instagram and getting a cup of tea and then finding you've lost 3 hours of your life and then waking up, finally going back to bed and waking up feeling terrible the next morning. You can actually get a better night's sleep, which will then make you actually get up and instead of wanting a donut and a sugar rush, you'll look at healthy options for your breakfast. It's all about those baby steps.
Really interestingly then, Heather, you mentioned about how, you know, Boots and a lot of the bigger brands had then come on board and they were like, yes, we see a need for all of this. A lot of products then, and this is where the kind of controversial side of it can come in. It's like, why do we then have to have specific products for specific stages of life? Because I suppose where I sit as a menopausal woman right now, what I find can be quite triggering a lot of the time is to think, well, why would we disrespect women pre-menopausal without putting all of the product ingredients in right first time? Why do we then need to have specific menopause products?
You don't necessarily have to have specific menopause products. You have to have products that have the right ingredients in for whatever life transition you're in and can affect. Now, some of the creams that are out there can actually be brilliant for dry, itchy skin of a 20-year-old, but can actually add the sensitivity, the dry and itchiness for a menopausal woman. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree with you that no, all products don't have to be menopause specific. But they actually, if you're going to have the menopause-friendly symbol on it and you are a menopausal woman searching, sourcing and shopping, you know it's got the right ingredients in to help your skin as well. And the idea was that we wanted to actually make menopause inclusive in society as a natural life.
Yeah, and I love that. The whole thing around actually you can walk in, it can be so overwhelming when you're already dealing with the overwhelm of life, you've got the mental load and your stability has become a bit more compromised. So decision fatigue's a real thing. You know, the anxiety of even just doing your weekly shop now and thinking, I don't even know what's going to work on my hair anymore because actually it's changed. I'm losing it. What's going to help me? What's going to hinder me? So I do value this. And of course, the conversation that we're having today, I'm sure many people will ask, like, but why do we have to have menopause-based products as such?
Well, like I say, you don't have to have menopause-based products. You have to have menopause-friendly, credited products because that will ensure that it's the right time for you and your skin or your hair or any other part of you. Because again, it's not just about the MTIC here, Adele, as you know, that even though our research has shown that fear is bigger now for menopause and entering perimenopause than it's ever been before. It's 10% up each year, and we've been doing this for 5 years now. So the awareness, despite the awareness going up, the lived experience is worsening because there's too much overwhelm, there's too much, so what do I do? And actually, naturally, you will bury your head in the sand when it becomes too overwhelming.
You naturally will. And the easiest thing to do is to pull away, right? And we recognize this a lot with women in general, but people, humans in general. And it's basic psychology that actually that cognitive overload becomes way more apparent in menopause. And we see that with the research that the likes of Dr. Lisa Mosconi and her team are doing with the brain.
I think we've also got to add in as well, this is a busy time for women often in our lives. Not only have you possibly got aging parents, possibly teenage kids at home, your career at a high, whatever job that might be, everything's going on. And then to add to that, you get thrown in with possibly up to 48 signs, from anxiety to sleep deprivation to dry and itchy skin, that come along like a hole in the head. It's the most inconvenient time to have menopause.
Yeah.
But actually, that's the way it comes. So not only is it about helping the overwhelm, it's understanding from, say, a retailer's point of view, how are you actually helping that sleep-deprived, anxious, overwrought woman with brain fog find what she's looking for in your store or online? How easy are you making it for her to find these products. And for me, that's where I needed the help. I was time poor. I wanted to get straight to products. I didn't want any messing around. I didn't want to have to buy a witch magazine and actually look through all the good, the bad, and the ugly. I wanted an easy way to do this. And actually, and then it'd be down to my choice. And actually, it wasn't there. And, the other part of menopause, as well as you'll have seen over the last 4 or 5 years, it still feels very celebrity and white and middle class. Menopause has to be for all cultures and all socio-demographics. We've hit the highest cost of living crisis. And I don't want any woman entering menopause feeling that she can't afford to be menopausal or frightened of it. We've all got to start somewhere on our journey, and every woman deserves to live a best lived experience. And I was shocked by figures that we've found in our research along the way, that 85% of women in the UK will say my menopause isn't that bad. Well, not that bad suggests it could be better. And why are we allowing women, or why are we as women allowing ourselves to have a not that bad experience when I want a really great experience? Mm-hmm. We need to aspire women to thrive. We need to encourage them to value themselves more and put their menopause as a top responsibility on there, that give themselves permission to get the right products and the ingredients. Now, it's not about spending more money on this as well. And I really want to add this. This isn't about meno washing. This is actually about meno powering. And actually, this isn't about back to your menopause friendly rather than specific. There are some great products out there that she will be shopping for: shampoo, conditioner, body cream. These aren't necessarily going to be more expensive than the daily ones, but actually get the right ones in.
One of my favorites actually is whenever we're around going into like B&M, that I absolutely love picking up they've got like an argan oil shampoo and conditioner, and it's £1 and it lasts me for months, absolute months. It's my favorite one. So I don't spend a lot of money on product. I never have done.
Well, people say to me, what's my favourite product? And right now it's Colgate Total. And people say to me, well, why is the empty con toothpaste? Isn't that ludicrous? That's just selling it to anybody, and bringing it in. I said, no. I said, in pregnancy, you have free dentistry because your hormones are changing all the time. Those same hormones are changing in menopause. And how many people are actually looking to the receding gums and the teeth? Now, actually, many of my friends, they've got caps now and everything else. And I defy you to ask many of your listeners today how many of them have thought about the teeth in menopause now.
Bone loss is a big thing actually as well. There's a lady that is in our community, and she messaged me just recently to say that she's actually gone through cancer treatment on top of perimenopause, and she's just been diagnosed as having 40% bone loss in her jaw at 40 years old. And it's like, wow, these things are... I'm actually speaking at the Scottish Dental Show again this year, doing a training on all of this, because oral health and the changes to even perio is massive.
And so under acknowledged or undereducated. I mean, like I said, you get free dentistry in the UK for pregnancy, but you don't get free dentistry in menopause, but no, to get free education as well. We're not educated on this.
Yeah, there's still so much to do, isn't there? But I think it's a phenomenal thing what you and Sam have built. This whole, from concept and initial, we've got this problem, and now we've built the solution, and it is never easy, right? I think even when we look at it,
it's had its critics.
Yeah,
we were accused of exploitation and manipulation, which was really upsetting when the big retailers came on board first, because no one really was interested in. They never looked into who had started this. It wasn't a big retailer starting it. It was a perimenopausal woman knocking on the door of these brands, going, we've got evidence to show that 87% of women feel let down by brands like yourselves, and we've got a solution for it. So it was absolutely generated for the right reasons, all the right reasons, because it's the right thing to do.
And was that research that you and Sam did together?
No, we didn't do it. We independently had it researched. So that's the best way. We did independent credible research, and so it was a minimum of 4,000.
We don't have enough research though, right? I think when we look at we just don't have enough, and I think anything gives us insight. And actually, when we've never had something, when we've never walked into our local supermarket or big retailing store and had a section that could support, it's like you say, there's sections for different things. And I suppose the pros and the cons of the argument and all of this would actually be as well, where the critics come in, is that we have periodials or we have, mother and baby aisles. So where's the differentiation? It's actually giving us a space and a place, like you said, to reduce the mental load. We know when we walk into these retail stores that there are trusted products within that. So maybe if we move to that, what makes a product trusted? Because this is probably something for me where I'm like, but surely they should be trusted anyway. Surely the ingredients that we are purchasing, putting on our head, onto our skin, because we know that that enters into the bloodstream and the blood-brain barrier.
Most of the products that enter onto the shelves in the UK, they're not dangerous by any stretch of the imagination. But will they do enough for you with your menopausal symptoms? Say it was sleep and magnesium and everything else. Has it got enough of that ingredient in? Everyone can say, oh, it's got ashwagandha in, but has it got enough ashwagandha? And actually, we've actually introduced minimum inclusion levels of the key nutrients at a highest level here. We've brought post-manufacture analysis to ensure that labels claim compliance, because again, these are what you think are
that is a huge one, actually. Yeah, for supplements as well, right? Like the actual claims of ingredients and levels of ingredients. Yeah.
And we've also built a requirement into the MTIC that they have to provide menopausal consumer research data. So everything's got to have been trialed and tested on a menopausal woman as well onto this. And then we've introduced regulatory compliance across all their brand assets, so that, again, like with the ASA and MHRA, any brand that is felt to actually have oversold its products and were pulled up by the Advertising Standards Authority, if they've got the MTIC on it, they risk losing their MTIC for overselling, because actually, again, we haven't got time for this. We've got to do it right. We've got to build a category of trust. So again, what I'm trying to show you is we have a compliance team. They have to work with the brand. If an organisation comes on, they don't automatically get the MTIC. Each one of their brands and that each one of those brands, products in that brand, have to be individually put through the situation. So we've got now 1,500 independent products, and then unique products, should I say, not independent. And then we've got over 3,000 SKUs, and that's growing. But every one of them has gone through our credible, really tough compliance, and actually it is awarded to them. I mean, it is a hard certification to pass, and we've had brands where they've failed. They've gone back to their technology team or their ingredients team, and they've actually added more ingredients in to be able to get the MTIC. Now that's great, because it's actually raising everyone's standards here. Do you know what I mean? So again, when people say, is this meno washing? Absolutely not. The MTIC was created to actually ensure we weren't meno washed, that everything could be meno powered, that actually nothing could say it did what it did on label unless they'd actually been able to prove it. And sadly, in today's world, I was a naive consumer, and you said at the beginning I hadn't got any medical experience or anything else. No, I was in menopause and I'd been a consumer all my life. There were the two credentials I had.
I love that, though. I'm not medical. I don't have a medical background. And yet, the education side of it is what makes this so important, I think.
Well, I was just naive, because I honestly thought you walk in and everything in supplements does what it says on the label. It doesn't. And
it never has done. And I think because it's an unregulated industry as well, it's very easy for you or me to just go make a supplement and put it out there for sale. And that's the hard fact.
The MTIC's there to make it regulated. If you want that MTIC and you want to go on the retailer's designated spaces in store and online, you have to prove that you've got your certification for that product. And whether it's on your package or not, you have to prove it.
I stand by. I like what you and Sam have built around this safety. It's like a safety mechanism almost of, we know that if we see that, they've been through a rigorous control, they've looked at the parameters and markers of what is in there is going to help.
Well, the vegan V and the veg, you look at that, you don't then start reading it. It's got trust, it's got, and that's all we wanted to set out. But actually, where veganism comes into like food and clothing and not much else, menopause goes across every category of retail, from food and nutrition, which we're going further into now. It starts in health, beauty and wellness, that because we know
it's a big industry, right?
Well, 87% of women now are self-diagnosing their menopause. They're going online, they're researching it. The first place they will go is supplements and nutrients. That's where the whole research is showing that that's where they're going. So it's natural to build it up in health, beauty and wellness in there. But actually we need to take it across everything because menopause impacts every part of our life. Do I want in the future on clothing where a woman can be really busy looking at two shirts? One, she picks up two shirts, she loves both shirts, but one's got an M tick on it, and she'll know it's got the technology in there to wick her a sweat and to help her through her menopause. Now, again, we're not asking to sell that shirt. We're asking, say, if you've got a choice of two and you're in menopause and you want that protection, that's the one to have. It's just that simplicity because everything helps make your day better today.
I mean, that's all we want for every woman, right? I think whenever we do any of this work, it's about that. I think that one of the things that you're maybe never going to come away from is and I remember personally with this one, Primark had reached out for me to be part of their launch of their menopause range. And I said no, because there isn't such a thing as a menopause piece of clothing, in my opinion. And I'll stand by that. There are clothings that will help, but there is no such thing as a menopause shirt and no such thing as menopause pajamas.
Which is why why we've always stuck by menopause friendly. And the woman could be wearing them. I mean, the only thing that you and I can't wear is pregnancy clothing if we're not pregnant. Do you know what I mean? We can wear them.
No, we can. They're very comfortable. I wore them for years after I had my girls. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas, where Primark, I mean, I've got to give credit. Primark aren't a partner with Gen M, but actually where I had to give Primark credibility was they went in and realised that they were underserving an audience and they wanted to do something for it. Their execution of it wasn't brilliant, but actually, let's be honest, no one's got it right. And actually, their intent was right. Their execution could have been better. And I didn't think they warranted the backlash they had because they never got to tell us why they said it was menopause well, they didn't say it was menopause friendly, as you said, rightly said.
It didn't. It was all, I think their marketing, unfortunately, and I mean, it's not to go in on any brand.
That's where it let them down. They didn't say this technology, we've got new technology in here, it specifically wickers you and everything else. And then we had the whole naysayers on the colour of it because it was like a very dirty pink, for want of a better word. But actually, everyone,
wasn't it?
It was bland, but it was bland on a white woman's skin. If you put it on a different culture, it looks beautiful. And so again, when we all jump again, please don't get me wrong, they didn't execute their marketing right, but actually their intent was, and now they don't do them. So actually, from all that backlash, instead of improving themselves, it's gone. And I agree with you with where clothes come in. It doesn't have to be a menopause specific shirt, but just that menopause friendly, the technology's there.
Menopause friendly, or, even to the point of, I think there's so many different things. I think when we look at this as well, so I've had a really close family member of mine go through quite an aggressive cancer treatment. And alongside all of that, there's been double mastectomy and a whole host of different chemotherapy. It's been a really big journey. Now, whilst she is now in chemical-induced menopause.
Which is a lonely place to be right now.
Yeah, right. And it's still a very big part of that. But actually, a lot of her symptoms pre-chemical menopause were brought on by cancer treatment. So I think where the debate kind of goes in with all of this, and I stand very, very respectful of any brand that comes into the space, because I think regardless of whatever happens, there's always going to be backlash. There's always going to be someone that says you're trying to capitalize by adding the word menopause to something. But we, again, the conversation around this is, but we don't have the same backlash when we add pregnancy to this. It's a pregnancy pillow, or it's pregnancy jeans, or so I think there's always going to be this. We're still in a cultural position right now, regardless of what culture we're in, regardless of what skin color we have or religion we practice a bit within. I think there is still going to be this debate that sits in everybody's minds where some of the people are triggered and others are like, I really like it. And I think that's the beauty in free choice.
It is beauty free choice, but it's also when you're trying to change society's thinking, we've also got to realise as well that we as women have to be kind with one another, that actually back to what was the intent of something. What we were trying to do and are determined on creating as now Gen M and the MTIC goes global. We launched in Australia and Asia this year. Is that actually we just want to ensure that if you bring the biggest brands and retailers together, they've got the biggest reach consumer-wise and work colleague-wise to raise the awareness of menopause and understand it better, and then to have products in there. But why would I be wanting the biggest brands and retailers to actually work on changing the rhetoric of menopause? Because if we don't change the rhetoric around menopause, we won't be able to thrive. More women will fear it rather than thriving. And equally, it's about education right now. In 2026, the average woman can only name 3 to 5 signs of menopause, which there's 48. So if we don't know what we're entering, now these retailers and these brands can help navigate us through those symptoms. They're not just putting a menopause-friendly designated space. They're giving us education. They're taking us to the 48 signs. They're raising awareness with men and women walking down a Tesco aisle that actually, have you got thinning hair? It might be because you're menopausal. Now, many women aren't associating. I think it's 61%, 6 out of 10 women do not associate the signs that they've got with menopause. Mm-hmm. So again, how best can we actually build an awareness of menopause? I mean, you go to the doctors maybe on average 6 minutes twice a year. You go to, how many times do you go to the supermarkets or go online shopping? Certainly more than. We actually look at bringing menopause into hairdressers, because hair is one of the first places that
it starts to thin, and I think when we're starting to lose it. But what we do need to be very mindful about is no amount of hairdressers touch or product is going to solve that when it's a hormonal imbalance through menopause need.
What a hairdresser can do is start the conversation with you, because actually
potentially where this all comes back into as well, and I know that for many of the listeners on this will be a really good conversation for them, because there'll be those that are very much yes, I want to be in charge of, I don't want to replace my hormones, I don't want hormone replacement therapy, so what supplements are available to me and what products are menopause friendly? And that is all part of empowered action and empowered
absolutely.
And then there's the others who will be like, well, no, no amount of shampoo is going to fix my thinning hair when it's hormonal related.
But the scalp products and everything else can, they can stimulate, so they can add on to anything else that you're doing.
But they will never replace the hair loss if it's happening because of hormonal imbalance. So I think that's the difference. But one of the things you'll probably find really interesting is Elizabeth Arden, I don't know if you know this story, right back in the, used to include estrogen in their creams, right? Do you know the story behind that?
No, I didn't. Yeah.
So this used to be part of initial beauty, and it was included as a topical option inside Elizabeth Arden cream. Yeah, and it's like, go read. It's so fascinating to look at what they did, because they recognized that topical estrogen is still a very big conversation right now. Obviously, it was completely FDA unapproved, and then it all got pulled off the marketplace. But this was all included as standard for women in the 70s.
Well, I mean, I've always said if Anita Roddick of The Body Shop had lived, I mean, unfortunately, she died so young, menopause wouldn't have been a problem, because she was already on the agenda of it, of talking about signposting and doing different things and notifying women about what happens in this life transition.
We need more of that. It's more of those like yourself and Sam spearheading change. Change is never going to be easy. And I think looking at how you and Sam are doing this and really looking at the change, bringing the big brands in, taking an A4 piece of paper with a drawn out M with a tick on it and saying, we want you behind this. That is like lady balls. That is walking in somewhere and being like, this has to change and we need you to help us do that. It's powerful. It's needed. And whilst there will be people out there that say, we do not need menopause-based products, it's like we come back to, it's menopause friendly. It's given us the opportunity of seeing, yes, unfortunately, some supplements out there, because we don't have the same rigorous control around them all, will actually potentially be more detrimental to your menopause journey than beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, all we keep building on it over and over and over now is that we will continue to listen to what women want, need and demand and actually deserve. and we will look to serve them. And actually, do you know what? We'll always in life have naysayers and everything else, but for every one woman who is against what we're doing, there's 9 that aren't and actually really want it to happen. And, it's never, menopause retail is never going to be the full solution to your menopause. It really isn't. You've got to look at your food that you're eating. You've got to look at the exercise. You've got to look at everything that encompasses it. But if you don't do anything,
exactly.
It's like if you didn't prepare for a marathon, I would defy anyone, if there was a gun against your head, you could still run a marathon. It might take you a long time, but you'd still do it. And how you got there, you'd crawl over the line, you'd be blistered up to the eyeballs and everything else. Every woman can have a better lived experience of their menopause. However bad it is right now, it can be better. However good it is, it can be even better.
Yeah.
And actually, this is all about bringing the brands and retailers in to enhance your experience of menopause and help you, ease, relieve or support one of the signs you might be having. But still, I always say, if you're having bad symptoms, the first port of call should be your doctor to start with. But equally, I think more women now, if they become better prepared about their menopause, they will have a better experience. And for me, as well as yourself, Adele, we know it's all about the preparation. A better prepared body, mentally, physically and emotionally, entering menopause will have that better experience. And I stand by the fact my grandma, she was 94 when she died, but she had a great menopause, but I still stand by. She didn't have a car. She had her own allotment. She created her own food. She walked to the shops to carry a superbike. She didn't need to go to the gym and do a gym session. So her body was nutritionally dense when she was entering her menopause. I would argue my generation of women, I'm probably about 20 years older than you, Adele, we've been the guinea pigs of dieting. We've been the Atkins, the Cambridge, the cabbage soup, every diet that's been there. So when we've entered menopause, we've been nutritionally deficit. We've been calorie counting. And I still, to this day, believe that had we had better education on nutrients, our bodies would have started the menopause in a better place. We're working on prevention now, or catching up. I think the next generation of women coming forward who haven't been as these much more nutritionally aware will stand a better standing start than many of the women of my generation. And I'm not blaming it all on food at all, but actually we have been calorie counting rather than nutritionally counting. And I think it's started to show now that, I used to be 4 apples equates to 1 Mars bar. Well, I'll have the Mars bar if you don't mind. Do you know what I mean? How better? I'll just eat that slowly throughout the day. And that's what I worry about with GLP. If we don't change the way that they're actually looking at the nutrients they're eating, they'll eat less, but eat less of what, and it's not calories that count in life, it's nutrients. And so, there is a lot to be here, and no one's got the answer, but collaboratively together, if we can get the doctors better at this, if we can get the educationalists better with young men and women talking about menopause at an early start of life, that's just your whole journey. And if we can get, the retailers and brands playing their part as well, and the businesses with the work colleagues, and with the policies. But again, I always firmly believe it's not about having a great menopause policy in your business. It's about getting the awareness and the education and the conversation across your business, because you can have the best policy, but I defy anyone trying to find a policy within a business. It's bloody hard to find. And equally, if you don't know your menopausal, why would you look for it in the first place? And
it's so true.
You don't know. So we've all got a role to play, and we all can do better. And that's what I'd like this, podcast to end on, that. But we've all got a role to play as well. So if you're a woman who isn't having a great experience, actually call it out, bring it up with your doctor. Don't just accept the one doctor that isn't feeling supported. Find another doctor and actually bring it up why you didn't like this particular doctor, or why you don't think they've been supportive. If you're in a retail outlet or your brand and you can't find what you're looking for, and you can't find a designated place, or you don't feel that they're serving you in a best way, ask to speak to the manager. The manager will end up speaking to head office. You've got a role to play. You can make it work. Again, also, if you are supporting your friends, the first question to ask, if they're looking at other products and a friend says, what do you think of this? The future question will be, well, is it M-ticked? because that will be your confidence to actually go, well, if it's M-ticked, it's a great starting place. But we've also got to remember, as you'll know, Adele, as well, that not every product works for every woman, because every woman's menopause is different. So when I say be kind to one another, let's be kind on this, because I run in Hockers. Now, I've recommended Hockers to so many of my friends, and two of them who I thought would love them have gone, oh, they just didn't work for me. They didn't say they were a rubbish shoe. They just said it didn't work for me.
For them. Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, there are many products out there that are really great. So if it hasn't worked for you, so I suggest giving it to one of your friends and letting them try it, because it might work for them. Do you know what I mean? Rather than going, diss it and go, that's rubbish.
No, and I think this is it, right? It's leading through your own empowered choice. And this is something that we've said in so many episodes previously to this one as well, is that it's about, this is your body. It's the only one you're ever going to have. We do not get to renegotiate replacement parts. Yeah, there's so much that can, yeah, right. It's like there's so much in this life that we can influence. Of course we can.
But be empowered by doing it your way as well, but not being afraid of it. Because again, you won't remember when my generation of women, when I was having a baby, there was a big campaign called Breast is Best. And it went out, a national campaign and everything else. Now, I have no doubt that possibly breast is best. But if you can't breastfeed, or you were going back to work and everything else, the automatic thing in those days was to come off the breast. Now, again, your friends and your own female compatriots around, because of the big campaign, when you were saying a lot, I'm coming off the breast, I'm going to do formula, it's not working for me right now. It's almost like, what sort of woman are you? And actually it alienated women. Were you breastfeeding or were you formula feeding? And we became aliens of one another. And it became really upsetting then, because you felt that you were letting your baby down and everything else, when actually you were doing what was best for you and your baby at that time around what was your life. Now, I fear if we're not careful, it becomes very much HRT or not to HRT.
It's kind of always been that way for decades now, hasn't it?
I'm bored of that. It alienates everyone. It does no good. Actually, support your friend who's on HRT and ask what else is she doing. Encourage you to do other things. Again, if you're not taking HRT, actually be proud of not taking HRT if you found your solutions that work for you, and show how well you're feeling on it and everything else. But let's not be judgmental, because life's too short to be judgmental. I really admire women now who are going out going, this is my body. I want to research. I want to educate myself. You know, the world's out there, from the doctors right through to the natural supplements and everything else you can be taking, to the products. I'm going to educate myself, and I'm going to choose what I believe will be the best for me. And actually, if it works for me, that's good enough for me. It's your body to control it your way. And I think that's a great place to be, where women can start to own their menopause and live their life the way they want it.
That would be the dream, right? Where women, and that's why this podcast exists. It's why I do what I do in the platforms that I'm on, because
it's absolutely brilliant. You're normalizing it, you're making women feel not a sandwich short of a picnic, not alone, not isolated. There's 15.5 million women at any one time who are in menopause. We're not alone.
No, we're not. And I think that's the whole concept around, bringing very strong evidence-based conversations so that women can make their own choices, where we have our own bias. We all bring bias. We're naturally, as humans, that's what's going to happen, right? It's like we can't come away from that. I think that as we do wrap up this episode today, it's been really insightful to look at how an idea from a problem that you had yourself, where the natural progress for you was to say, well, I'm going to go and find the products to help me with that. And when you couldn't find those products really easily, it then became whoa, wait a minute, we need to do something to help women so that they can find products really easily, is a really, really beautiful, powerful thing. And I know so many women that will look at this and think, this is just a dream for me, because I now know that I can jump onto that website, and when I see this tick, I know it's already gone through all the checks.
The biggest retailers in the country are committed now to giving designated space for us. Now, not every retailer can put a store, an aisle in there, or a big area, but what they can do is improve their online facilities. So what you'll find is better education on online. And what I really love about this generation now for menopause, that retailers especially are looking now at what better way can we do online shopping, and it's more about education. They're going to be putting much more educational content on
I
there.
would love to see that. And I'd also love to see them put some of that investment into women's health research because we need that.
Obviously there's the pharmacies and everybody else who do that, but they're all committed to do this the right way. But what I do really respect about the actual desire now to support this woman is everyone who's in a retailer has a mum who will go through inevitably one day menopause, and actually they do it for the right reasons because it's the right thing to do. But I also do believe that if they learn off this and they learn from this, I think the future of retail will be life transitional shopping. Whichever period of life you're in, you are going to want to be able to look at that and go, what's in here for me? I mean, the idea of the Moogle of a one-stop store, I wanted it to be like, as a child going into Hamleys and you looked and went, wow, everything's for me, but what am I going to choose out of here? I wanted a safe place for menopause where a woman could look and go, wow, this is created for me, but now let me spend my time looking through it and choosing what I want or what I like and what I don't like.
It's such a minefield. And I think having that dream and that ambition is such a beautiful, powerful, loving and compassionate way to look at it. One of the challenges that we're probably never going to come away from is that there are those that genuinely will create products that are a lot of time, effort, energy, research and commitment put into, and others where unfortunately the opposite is true and it's purely just stamped with menopause on it in order for them to make money.
They'll never get the MT.
What if some products don't go through your certification though, and they still are very, thought leaders or spearheaders within what they do? I'm just thinking of some smaller brands that potentially haven't come either in your radar or you in theirs.
Well, again, the best thing you can do is come back to Gen M. We will do a quick scan on it and see whether it is viable. I mean, we can't say completely, but equally we will be able to, and then we can go back to that brand and say, actually, you would be better off having the MTIC on this product to give you the full trust and credibility of it. Because again, not everyone will ever want a certification, but you won't be able to get deployed into the retailers that we're working with if you haven't, because they need that trust to know that what they're putting on the stand delivers what it's meant to do as well. So to those brands out there that haven't got the MTIC as yet, because I do believe every product in the world in the future, if it is really wanting to build trust with this woman, will put themselves through the accreditation. Every great company aspires to go through B Corp, no matter how small you are. And every company who's got a brand that they believe they can market to a menopausal woman will actually prove it can be marketed to a menopausal woman by going through our certification. And if you're scared of the certification, you're scared of not having your products passed, and because anyone who's good will put their products through it, because actually it's a win-win for the brands as well, because we know now with all our evidence that products with the MTIC in outperform products that haven't got the MTIC on in that menopause-friendly space. So, if I always say to a brand that's worried about getting the MTIC or thinks they can do it without it, well, actually, are you fearful of putting yourself through the MTIC certification? If you're not fearful, why wouldn't you put it on?
And does that give them, so when we think about things like insurance support, does that give them benefits in that space? Or is it, I'm just trying to understand a bit more. So nothing like that. I'm thinking about when it's a certification. So they apply to come through this certification with you. And then is there an investment that they pay to get the MTIC on their product?
Yes, I mean, it's like a licensing, but if you look through any licensing from Red Tractor onwards, there's a cost to be paid. Someone's got to be able to build that cost in, but actually for all the research, I mean, what every brand who comes in for the MTIC could become a partner of Gen M anyway, and you get incredible research reports. Like last week, we said we created a 70-page report that can help them understand this woman so much better and unlock that potential to truly drive your business and your product and your audience with the loyalty she needs. You get that. We do a campaign every October. Last year we did the Menologue. We brought out 250,000 copies. It's behind me on there, of a free distribution magazine that went freely it's distributed through our retailers. So we're actually more than just the MTIC. We give you research reports. We give you assets and campaigns every year that come together. We bring you together for thought leadership events, and we also every year celebrate. We just did our Gen M Awards last year of celebrating the great brands and retailers doing it right and what gold standard looks like for not just having an MTIC, but actually going and breaking the barriers down with your consumers on taking the fear out of menopause. So again, there's, like I say, commercialism's in everything the world does, but actually being a partner of Gen M, you're actually committing to understand, support and serve the menopausal consumer better. And yes, there is a price to be paid, but actually, we treat the big tier companies to the startups in a totally different way. Everyone gets the same benefits, but the prices are there accordingly. And everyone can be part of Gen M should they want to be.
Yeah, and I think that that's something, again, just, bring into the listener base, whether this is relevant for the listener or not, where they are. But I think it's just, it's coming back to that point of, if they don't have the Gen M tick, then they're not a menopause friendly product. There's maybe a little bit of a nuance to that smaller organizations that haven't maybe come through that still have a very, very beautiful product. They just haven't potentially invested in it.
And that's not to say that they haven't got the right ingredients in, but I would say to any startup, we have startup tiers as well. I am as an entrepreneur, and several times over, I have a great respect for founders and startups.
It's nice that you do that, because I think when you think about the product lines that we have in the industry, you do have the larger scale corporates versus
we
the
do,
smaller.
But we also have many challenger brands and many startups, and many of the challenger brands wouldn't have got into the grocers as onto the health, beauty and wellness, but they've been able to come in with us onto their menopause friendly, and so it's been the starting place for their listings with the big.
Yeah, which is fabulous for them to consider entry points as well into retail. Oh, I could speak to you forever about these types of things. I think it's really interesting and intriguing. And actually, there's so many, I'm sure, different viewpoints and conversation topics.
And that's what life's about. It's not about making everyone happy. There'll be plenty of women on here who can see what I've done and understood that I've done it for all the right reasons, and it was a purposeful mission that I set out to do and bring the United, the biggest brands and retailers, to understand us better. But then there'll be some other women who actually go, it's exploitation. Did I really want,
We're not here to make everyone happy, Heather. This is all about making sure that actually your mission, not dissimilar to what many of our missions are, is about making menopause mainstream and having those conversations through education, through, safety, and actually the choice of safety. And I really respect you for that.
Well, I know that you had your doubts about what Gen M was doing at the beginning, and that's what I loved, why you phoned up to just...
Yeah, well, I was open, right? It wasn't a shutdown. It wasn't a, no, I'm not going to speak with Heather Jackson on this. Because...
Well, I think that's it. People have perceptions of what the MTIC is and everything else, but actually, when you read about it, you understand, you don't know how much... I mean, it's been person invested. It's been a startup that's pure our own money into this and invested in every which way. We've used our own money to build the reports. We've used our own money to build up the accreditations because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And no one will ever be able to actually say to me that I think in life we all have been brought up to have some sort of purpose in life. And this was mine, and I'm not coming off it. I'll take the criticism because constructive criticism, makes you a better person. Don't give me a compliment.
When you are on your purpose path, nothing is constructive criticism, and that it knocks you off. So I think you take what you need and act with discernment, right? Always. Because you signed your soul contract before you came here. So you were always here to shake it up and do something. But I think with anyone that ever spearheads or trailblazes something that's new, you're going to come up against those that are a bit more negative in it.
But you know what? Barriers are there for a reason. You wouldn't want to go in a field if it didn't have a trespass note in it. As soon as it says trespass, you want to go in it. So the more people who don't like what I'm doing will make me more determined to make it successful and show them why they were wrong not to believe in Gen M and our vision to actually help make the menopause better today than yesterday. And honestly, Adele, I want to thank you as well, because as you can see, having an entrepreneur on is not easy when you're having a conversation. I just roll with it. So for anyone out there who's thought I've just talked 2 long sentences and not taken a breath of air, please forgive me. I'm just so passionate about this. I really am. So thank you very much anyway.
Yeah, it's been so eye-opening, and I think I want to thank you for being here and having this conversation with us. And anyone listening into this right now that wants to find out more, where can they come and find you?
www.gen-m.com. But equally, check me out on Instagram or LinkedIn. Check out Gen M on Instagram and LinkedIn, but check out me personally on LinkedIn. Anyone DMs me, I will always answer them back and everything else. And if you do follow me on LinkedIn, you'll actually understand all the work that goes in behind Gen M and what we're doing and how we really are actually igniting the world to think differently about menopause. And it's hugely, hugely positive, and I've got an incredible, purposeful team behind me, and we just want to do what we do for all the right reasons. So thank you very much for your time anyway, Adele, and thanks for giving me the platform to talk about it.
Such pleasure, always. From one woman to another, we are both doing amazing things that do not get the most amazing results sometimes in terms of what people think, but we are both here on our purpose missions, and whatever I can do to support you, I am here, because when it helps other women, that's what it's all about.
It certainly is. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We will leave all of the details in the show notes, so for those of you that want to connect directly with Heather, you will have the link to click through. And as always, anything discussed on these episodes are here for your entertainment, not your medical support. Always consult your own medical teams if you have anything you need to review.